Where I left off in the last video, I had just double clicked on this layer and then named it black, locked this layer so that the photograph cannot be messed with or drawn over the top or moved. And I just want to continue with what I mentioned earlier in the last video about you getting your computer to look similar to mine. So right now, this is the newest version at the time I'm making the program, and Adobe has made a nice improvement on this properties panel here that shows a lot of, just depending on what tool you're using, it changes contextually. But after this video, you may see me using an older version of Illustrator in some of the videos. So if you're good at just saying, oh, Steve's computer looks a little bit different to mine, no big deal, then just continue with this setup because I really like this. But if you want it to look like mine, when it looks different than this, then most likely the easiest way to do that is you just click up here and change from Essentials to Essentials Classic. And that will give you the look that's going to be in some of the upcoming videos. When you read through the Celebrity AI project, you'll see one of the big things in here is do not use strokes. And then also down here in the grading criteria, also known as the rubric, you can see the majority of your points come from your competency that you learn along the way with the pen tool, and that there are no Adobe Illustrator strokes in the project. So let me explain to you what that means here as we look to one of our first shapes that we're going to draw. So I'm going to switch back to the Essentials. And I just like my layers front and center here. So I want to be on the blacks layer because that's what we're about to do. Have the photograph layer locked. Then I'm going to take the zoom tool over here, which may be housed with the hand tool. Or I should say the hand tool might be up on top. And that allows you to move things around. But what you want to do is click there, bring out the zoom tool, and then just click and drag to zoom in on an area. And we're going to pick one of these wrinkles to do. And I'm going to show you the right way first, and then I'm going to show you what you're not allowed to do. So whenever I draw with the pen tool in Illustrator, I always turn off the fill and draw with just a stroke turned on. That's okay to start with, right? You just don't want to leave anything with a stroke on it or anything just as a stroke, which should be clear once I finish here. I'm going to click on Properties with that pen tool selected, and I'm going to change the stroke thickness to 0.5 points just because that helps a little bit. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to click and drag, and you would have learned about this in the pen tool videos, but it's a lot of clicking and dragging with those arrows. It's not just a series of clicking. Oh, I didn't like that one, so I'm going to Command Z a couple times. Okay, this time. Okay, so the key thing to get here is that I am drawing both sides of this stroke. Or, well, it's not a stroke, but of this wrinkle, let's say. Okay, now that that's done, now that I've made a completed path, now I'm going to flip-flop the fill and the stroke. That is exactly what you want. So any shape that you make in this project, whether it's supposed to look like a straight line or not, needs to have you draw one side and then around draw the other side of it. The reason is twofold. One, you're going to become a lot better and more accurate with the pen tool. And two, it looks a lot more natural. So watch here when I go back to layers and turn off the eyeball on the photograph. That looks like something kind of random, kind of like a brush would have done, not like a computer programmed stroke. So now let me show you what you're not supposed to do on this project, and that is the dreaded open path. And really it's not dreaded. There's really nothing fundamentally wrong with it. It has its purpose, but just not in this assignment. And that would be just so when you click on this, it is just a stroke, no fill. It's an open path. We started here, we finished here. Whereas here, we started here, went around, all the way around, and finished where we started. And if I turn off the image again, you can see this one looks cheesy. It has the same thickness all around it. It looks cheesy in this case when we're trying to do something artistic. All right, so we'll click, get rid of that. Maybe as you're tracing over your image, you're having problems seeing enough contrast in there. And let me show you why we saved this as a Photoshop document and placed it the way we did and did not embed it, if you're familiar with that. So I'm just going to make sure at this point would be a good time to save this project. And if you haven't saved it yet, you're just going to click save and save it. I think I accidentally saved it one time already, but give it a name that makes some sense to you, that you can find it easily, and keep doing that often. Now, what we're going to do, we just saved this. We're now going to open up Photoshop and open up the Photoshop document of this image, and I want to show you how powerful this is. What we're going to do is we're going to make a change to it, and then we're going to come back to Illustrator, and Illustrator is going to know that we made a change to it. Photoshop, I did File, Open, navigated to my folder. I'm clicking on that Photoshop document. I'm going to click Open, and so what we're going to do to this image is we're going to pretend that it doesn't have enough contrast. So we're going to make a change to this image that may just be temporary. I'm going to click on this little icon at the bottom here, create new or fill adjustment layer, and then I'm going to select levels. And go ahead and play around with this handle, this one, and this one. A lot of times moving them in will give you a lot of contrast, which may help you. In my case, what I think I need to do is just shift the center to bring out a little more light in the image, just to help me trace it. Now, the beauty of doing this as a layer is that you can turn it off later and it goes back to where it was. Okay, so that's one change we're going to make, and then I'm going to make a more drastic change just so you can really see. Don't do this yourself. This is just for example purposes, but I'm going to make a new layer down here by clicking here, and on this layer I'm just going to paint a little bit on the image. So I clicked on the color, selecting a color, B to select a brush, and then I'm just going to make a little goof there. Okay, now we're going to go File, Save. Now we're going back to Illustrator, and look at that. Some files are missing or modified from the panel. Would you like to update them now? Click yes, and there's our image with the changes we made to it. So I just want to talk a little bit more about placed images. So this image inside of our Illustrator document is placed there. So what you really need to know about that for now is just that you need to, if you're going to move to another workstation, go to the library to work on this, something like that, you need to carry with you not just this Illustrator file, but the entire folder. Because the reason is, if you just put this on your thumb drive and open it on another computer, it'll come up with a message that says, could not find linked image. I just want to emphasize here again that it's very important to keep watching these videos, watch them in order, because you're going to learn things like global colors and techniques that will be looked at when I go to grade the project. And some of them save you a great deal of time when it comes to recoloring the image. Because as you'll see, first we build a grayscale version, and then we take those grays and change them to color. And using global colors, you can do it with the click of a button rather than having to hunt out every individual color and manually change them. First process check that we do for this project, I want you to show me with your rulers turned on. So to do that, you go up to View, and you go to Rulers, and you go to Show Rulers. And you may want to remember that shortcut, Command R on a Mac. Okay, so here the rulers showed up. And if they're not in inches, it just means you missed a step earlier on when we changed it to inches, but you can control click inside of here and change it to inches. If that doesn't work for you, you can also go to File, and you can go to Document Setup, and then inside of Document Setup, you see that somewhere in here, where is it? Oh, right here, very top, Units set to inches. What I'll be looking for in that process check is, one, that you have your document size set up correctly to 13, so I can tell from 0 to 13, and from 0 mark down here to 19 that you'd have your image set up properly. The other thing I'll be checking is that your image is not pixelated, meaning that you started with an image that had at least 900 worth of pixels, pixel data in each direction. So just having your document set up like this would get you the low A grade 36 out of 40 points on the process check. But if you did more and you want me to be able to see that you did more to go up to possibly towards 40 out of 40 points, just follow the advice in the video that'll be in the instructions for the process check, which, well, I want you to watch the whole thing, but it's the one that involves moving the image off to the side and then doing the capture. Okay, so at this point I would say just be sure that you have watched all the videos on using the pen tool and that you've practiced with the pen tool in just a side document, and that way your Celebrity AI will show that you are already fairly competent with the pen tool. But remember, you're going to get better and better along the way. And in the next videos, I will go over more instructions for putting in the blacks of the image.